All right, quorum check. So quorum check, we do have Joy in the room. Me, Tony, John, Craig, Joe, and Bill. Frank and Brad let me know they wouldn't be here. I guess Chris isn't coming, you said, so Chris isn't gonna be here, so I think we got who we're gonna have. Bill, we will have to activate you today, so you will be a voting member today. All right. Public comment period for items not on the agenda. Anybody want to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Not seeing anybody on Zoom. Okay, moving on. We don't have anybody from 1280 Dryden Road here yet. Is that correct? So we'll skip that one for the moment. Lower Creek Road.
So this is based on the so developing a 4-acre lot to put 2 duplexes on it. Is only lot present is 1 20. So in order to put a second development on the property, needs to get site plan from the planning. There's also, if it's only 250 frontage, it could also be even a variant in the CPA to allow a 1 lot for 225 foot frontage. So the annual 5 lot and 225 foot frontage lot, pretty needs the approval of this board as well as. So you're actually starting to forward this to the CPA with some recommendations to the board, and then you could make a site plan review approval, which is condition upon grant or variance, but you do that.
Tony, please let Ray know you cannot hear him at all.
Okay, got it. Got it now?
I can hear you now. And Dan, I'm admitting right now.
Ray, this project requiring planning board approval because it's a duplex?
No, just anytime there's a second dwelling on a property, then it has to be site plan approval for allowing it to stay unsubdivided, but it has to be capable of subdivision. So that's why in the application there is showing a flag lot potential for this lot.
Right, I got that.
So I don't know if you're able to pull up a site plan. You want me to pull up?
I have it. I don't know if others do. Computer is being a little weird at the moment.
They're just, yeah, just lost the image on mine.
No, here you go. All right.
Page 12 of the application, if you can get
Yeah.
to it. I can't get mine to project right now.
Okay. I'm going to. There it goes. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Sure it was. Is it page 12?
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Yep.
Just
Ray,
rotate
is
it.
your microphone on?
It is now, yeah.
Okay. So this is what we're talking about. Oh, stop that. So there's a building existing, building one is there right now?
No,
Oh, no. Okay. So there's no buildings on this?
no building.
He has done a similar development on Lower Creek Road, so we kind of know what this is gonna look like down the road.
Yes.
So you may be able to visualize, that other development that he built recently. With 2 duplexes. Or were there 3 on that,
Three,
3 on that lot?
yes.
This is 4-acre lot with proposed 2 duplexes.
So does this have the proposed subdivision on it?
It does, showing just the flag lot, the 25-foot flagpole going to the rear acreage. So that's the configuration that would allow the frontage, and then there are 4 acres, so it's sufficient for 2 conforming lots, since we have a 1-acre minimum.
And it looks like they have a shared septic. System. Okay, do you want to talk about this at all?
Yes, so this is over 2.5 acre lot. And the frontage is a little bit too short, 252. And that's gonna be in the one piece, not divided, not subdivided. That's what's showing. This is only proposal, so can be flag lot on behind, but I'm not gonna do this. There's gonna be 2 building, 2 duplexes, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, each one, 1 driveway with split to 2 of them. I got already approval from health department for 8-bedroom septic system, what's showing. The well will be 1 well with splitting supply water to 2 building. All this will be heated and powered by electricity. So heat pump for the heat and AC, all appliances, Energy Star. I gonna use electric small boiler for additional radiant heat floor. And I got already almost done 2 of the parts. Next almost neighbor of this lot, 3 that kind building, and that will be duplicate, something like this. Rented well to local mid-age professional. So problem is frontage. Frontage is a little bit too short, but the location and acreage is good. This is my point.
Questions?
I don't have any. I don't have any.
So what are you gonna put on the flag lot?
Nothing,
Nothing?
nothing.
It's just-
Next will be not flag lots, will be 1 lot like showing
Right.
on the picture just I'm not gonna split it, not gonna, I hate the flag lot because behind is nice green buffer,
What's the
so.
purpose of the flag lot? I guess I'm confused. What's the purpose of the flag lot?
Well, this is a fairly new statute we put on the book years ago, so it allows for development to get a second dwelling, which is the building, without having to go through a subdivision. So as long as you have the acreage and the ability to subdivide in the future, there basically becomes a deed restriction that he is putting the 2 duplexes on this 1 lot. And if it were ever to be subdivided, that subdivision line would have to go between the buildings, be conforming. So you have to warm it around. So there's a 50-foot front yard. Or if down the road there was, our frontage was reduced to 125 foot, then you could literally divide the frontage in half. But the intent is not to subdivide and to have the 2 dwellings there. And that'll be kind of memorialize this agreement in the deed.
Unusual way to do it, but yeah.
Yeah, we wrote that statute for the purpose of being able to do this kind of thing without having the subdivision.
And we can do up to 10 dwellings per lot if
Right,
there's the ability to subdivide.
Right.
I think we've only exercised this maybe 3 times since
Yeah.
the statute was put on the books.
Okay. Any other questions?
visibility's good. Driveway. Access,
Yeah, where is?
Oh,
Sun
yeah,
Walker Creek?
access, I have a 40 feet wide. No, even more, because 2 pipe. So access to this is already there, so it's good 50
but
feet.
visibility in both.
Oh,
ways.
yes. And good things, I did this because it's curved, so I did this on the center part and wide, so you can see both sides really well. And the lower creek is a little bit tricky for the driving, so that's just my purpose. And I own other lots, so I know that place.
Gotta ask the question.
Yeah, so where exactly on Lower Creek is this?
This is between Pinky and 4H, let's say, on this part,
Got it.
facing to Fall
That's
Creek.
what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't look up the exact tax parcel, right?
Mhm.
It's on that curve right by the creek. It's got the creek on one side and you're on the other side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the other side,
Yeah.
big drop and creek.
Is the adjacent residence like 366 or 360?
Yes,
Okay.
because I built next door house. So it was 370, so this is right below.
Mhm.
This one.
A resolution to the, for this.
Yeah, if you want
we have to approve the
approve
site
the
plan.
site plan and then make the recommendation to the ZBA to, and make your site plan condition upon the ZBA granting the variance.
Right.
So I move what you've just said.
That we approve the site plan.
Right.
Yeah.
We approve the site plan contingent on
I'm
zoning.
getting the variance.
Him getting the zoning.
Right.
So there's that one.
I'll
You
second.
moved it?
No, I did.
Oh, Joe moved it. Second. John, seconds, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous, Troy. And then there's a second one, which is a recommendation to the ZBA. That this project, you know.
The variance be approved.
That the variance be approved.
I move that.
Okay. I'll second it.
And I would add to
Any
that, I
discussion? Go
think,
ahead.
I pointed this, so we just had one like this where there was a variance to reduce the front footage and pointed out that our zoning consultant has made the point for zones like neighborhood residential and rural residential that our front footages seem very large to her.
Right.
That her comment was that it tends to spread development out and force people to have larger lots, which is not what we're looking for. So that would be part of the rationale anyway for our recommendation
Right.
to the ZBA.
Right,
And it is single driveway.
it is a single driveway, right? Doesn't really change the character of the neighborhood.
Nope, got a couple of them there already.
Yeah. So. So that was moved by Joe.
You can, yeah.
I seconded, all in favor
Most few, a few conditions that we had.
with the conditions that we had, yeah. Joe, unanimous? Yes, I guess that's it.
Great,
Good luck.
thank you so much.
Good luck with the ZBA.
That's what it is. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Oh,
Do we want to move on to the PUD?
Yeah, we
Uh,
might as well give the 1280 a chance to
Yeah.
arrive.
And okay, here's some papers here, pass out. There you go. Pass those down. Pass those down.
So I think I've briefly mentioned this in the past. This is the proposal to develop an 8-acre lot at the end of Cardinal Drive. This is just adjacent to Hanshaw. And here we have the owner, Joe Lovejoy, and his consultant, Larry Fabroni. And this is an introduction of the concept. It seems like the PUD would be the most applicable tool here since it's in neighborhood residential. And we don't have the ability to do conservation subdivisions in neighborhood residential.
Okay,
Hey, thanks for having us. Larry Fabroni Jr. And Joe Lovejoy here. So I think you all got this, maybe the materials prior, so I'm not gonna read through the entire memo here, but I can answer any questions as we go. But maybe I'll just walk you through sort of the exhibits that we put here and the concept, and I think that's what we're here for today. Is just to sort of talk through of what we'd like to do versus what we can do right now. And maybe get a little bit of feedback on that before we come in with subsequent proposals, and maybe talk through process a little bit of how that might work. Knowing what we have kind of as of right on the property already. So just give you a couple of location maps just to make sure everyone's oriented with where this is on Hanshaw Road. Sort of directly sort of next to where the old Ludgate's farm stand was there. Also, the property can be accessed at the end of Cardinal Drive, off of Sapsucker Woods Drive, as well as there's a kind of paper street from Meadowlark Drive as well that ran there. That now is a parcel we believe is owned by Cornell University. So there was a right of way, plan there. So we're not 100% sure of how that ownership looks, but I could point that out on one of these exhibits.
Let me just clarify. I know the area from the Cardinal Drive direction. Did you say or not? I just didn't follow whether there's an access from Hanshaw.
Oh yeah, Hanshaw Road. There's a significant frontage on. There's not a current curb cut there, but there's significant frontage, and there's about 1,000 feet of sight line for either way from where we're sort of showing right now.
So the first phase of the PUD would be confined to the smaller houses with the access off Cardinal?
I think yes. I mean, we'd work through phasing and how it was preferred here. Yeah, I think that's something as we go through this to sort of figure out what the preferred access to the site is in general. Depending on where we would end up with density. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I'll walk you through it, but yeah, feel free to jump in anytime. That's what we're here for, is to talk with you. So if you look at just what I was talking about, was on page 5, where I show sort of the Cornell parcels that surround this, directly sort of north on the map. There's the 2 smaller Cornell parcels that you could see sort of where the street had been planned when Meadowlark Drive had been built. And there's another lot there that Cornell owns that would only have been ever accessed from that street that had been built. But that was an approved lot in that subdivision. That I believe Cornell acquired when they acquired the rest of the surrounding property there. This is just to show that other than the residences that already exist, most of the surrounding property here is Cornell open space right now. So there's not a lot of that's certainly a neighbor we'd want to think about buffering the open space from the development, but a PUD would also allow us to do kind of a larger open space and create that buffer as well. So if you just page 6 sort of looks at the existing 8+ acre parcel, and I think starts to highlight one of the issues which kind of drives some of the phasing and thought about how to develop the property, which is that the current limit of the water and sewer districts sort of bisects this site. And the western portion falls within it. There's also an existing water line already that runs through the site from Cardinal to Meadowlark through this site, sort of where a street might have been planned when those when those subdivisions were approved. And there's existing sewer that terminates at the western edge of the site as well as up on Meadowlark as well. So there's access here, as we talk about in the memo. There's
Sapsucker Woods is up here. There's a side street that ends about in here someplace that they could attach to. So they want to develop this. It's on this curve.
That's Marie's computer.
Yeah,
Can we mute?
okay, so that must be Fred.
hello to everyone in the ether too. We didn't meet you yet, but I'll look forward to that. So this whole site falls in an area, as we mentioned in the memo, that's been agreed upon as that the water and sewer district could extend into. It just would have to be formally done. So and Joe's had some initial conversations with Brent at the Village of Key Heights about about the possibility of that, and it sounded like something that should be able to be done as well. So but if you look at the next page, you sort of get into that a little bit in page 7. Sorry. So as of right, what we believe with the required stormwater facilities and the existing zoning, which requires 150-foot frontage of lots, which we added a slide later here that shows sort of how that's a larger frontage that's in the neighboring subdivisions there, which are all 100-foot wide lots. But with that existing zoning, as of right, we believe we could get 13 lots on this property with the stormwater facilities and the road frontages as well, which with the 13 lots and the allowance in this zone for a primary unit and an accessory unit on each lot, sort of would give you 26 units. But what we showed here is that sort of in the blue, which of those would fall within this water and sewer district, which is 7 of those lots, and then six more that would have to be part of an extension of that. So the next slide 8, I just sort of showed those neighboring subdivisions, and there seems to I know zoning ordinances get updated and change over time, but the current zoning doesn't allow for the same type of lots that the neighboring subdivision has. And so I guess one of the things we were talking about was so the owners are able to sort of move forward with some confidence here is that we think we could come for an approval of a subdivision with the noted intention of coming in in getting a PUD approval to follow that. And we think we could site those first phase buildings in a way that they could be integrated into the larger PUD. So assuming we'd get approval of that, if you want to begin some site work for buildings and things while we're going through that process later this year, that would be possible. I mean, we're up for any kind of discussion about this, what you all think, but that was just kind of one way of thinking about this, we thought. And so that's what we showed here on page 9 was that, these kind of what we call phase 1A buildings, seven of these, buildings, how they could fit on as of right lots. And then show you just kind of a real kind of test fit of a PUD concept on the last page. This certainly would be updated as we came through for a formal approval. With more detail as well as kind of refining building locations and kind of site features, but you see those orange buildings sort of show up again here and how they might start to fit into this kind of clustered tiny home concept for the PUD. So I guess. Yeah, we're interested in some feedback. We can answer more questions. That, I guess, the last thing is, one of the things the PUD lets us do is. Yeah, 22 of the 26 units now would be in that existing water and sewer district, and so there's only 4 units that we show right now. That would require that sort of extension of the districts to be built. Yeah, I think also there's a question of, what the objectives of the town are, and yeah, certainly if we're going to go through a PUD process and there's an interest in, more units like this, we could look at that too. I mean, we'd certainly be open to that, but I think we wanted to start with a baseline of kind of the 1-for-1 of what, as of right, the subdivision would allow for, and have the conversation.
What would be the sequencing? I'm not, I'm not following the sequencing. You're asking for us to respond to the notion of the as of right? Or all the way back to the PUD concept?
Well, I think we're here to really talk about, to get some feedback on the concept of a PUD. And because the subdivision is something we would propose, as of right, but the PUD obviously needs to go through a process, and ultimately needs to sort of serve it should serve everyone's interest, right? And so I think we want to get some feedback and thoughts and answer any questions you might have, and see if it's worth coming back with a proposal for that.
Well, you should know, this is my last meeting, so don't count on me. But on the other hand, or globally, for the 9 years I've been around, we've had a comprehensive plan that talked about PUDs that look like what I see in the PUD concept, and as far as I know, nothing was ever built like that. I've been maybe mild, anyway, I've been a pain in the butt about having larger amounts of recreation space for the number of dwellers and buildings in the multifamily projects that we've seen. This looks like something that I was always hoping for. I'm curious about the different nature of the houses as of right versus the PUD concept. Are they going to be cheaper? They're obviously smaller. Do you see housing different kinds of target populations with the two different concepts, the as of right versus the PUD concept?
You have thoughts on that?
I mean, it's pretty close to Cornell. I'd like to it's pretty close to Cornell, so I'm shooting for like students and stuff, and I think hopefully, obviously it's a different conversation. Hope Freeze Road Bridge gets fixed. I think that helped the traffic flow.
PUD is students, you say?
Well,
I mean,
I have bad hearing.
I think, we, obviously, everyone, is a target, right? And I think the idea here, right, with the PUD is that, we're able to deliver smaller units, right? That is one way, certainly for market rate development, that we can offer a more affordable product. And it's not just, it's not a unit that's, there's a demand for these type of units, right? And we've seen that, and we provided a kind of some examples of, I think those are Bruno Schickel's projects around here that have been very successful in delivering this type of product. And there's a whole range of people who live in these, from, but there are students who live in those, but there's families who live in them too. There's people who want it somewhere where they can downsize and sell their home and stay in the community and still have kind of more of a private space, but also kind of live somewhere where there's more of a community where they're closer to neighbors as they age. And so, yeah, we think it offers it offers options for a lot of different, a lot of different people who are looking for something that's smaller and more affordable than a typical single family home. That's kind of the predominant product in our suburbs and rural areas right now.
Just one more for me right now, anyway, the as of right buildings. Were they to be built? And, you're not under oath, so just curious. The as of right buildings would be market rate. And selling at whatever the median price is or higher. These under the PUD. If they were built this minute, so we're apples and apples. Would these be significantly cheaper than houses built as of right now? Does that make any sense as a question or not?
I know what you're saying. I mean, I'm a contractor too, and I do a lot of stuff in the Ithaca area, building stuff and whatnot. I'm actually working on a project in Ithaca as well. I feel like I am an affordable contractor, hence a lot of these other developers do talk to me, not these bigger companies. So I don't like to say I'm cheap, because that no one ever wants to be called cheap. You know what I mean? But I do like to think I do present an affordable house within reason.
And and I mean, I think I don't think Joe's sort of set, what his rents might be yet, or, if there's for sale product, what that would cost yet. But I think, my experience with, going through PUD processes, we provide you with representative sort of, intended rental rates in that process, and sort of, how that aligns with the AMI, in the area to kind of really understand, and I think there's always the opportunity then to talk about if, to make the project work, if, at the density that we're talking about right now, if that's not delivering sort of the type of affordability you might like to see, there's always the opportunity in a PUD to talk about, is there a way we could add some units and maybe offer some part of the project at a lower cost too.
So let me ask this a little bit different way. The subdivision route, are those single family homes that are being rented? They're not duplexes or anything like that. They're just single family homes that are being rented.
No, it's we're kind of shooting, like you said, something like Chick Bruno did.
Yeah, right. And then the PUD concept, these are the two.
He's asking, so the subdivision, I think you're gonna end up with larger houses. Like we still have to come, we still have to run through all that, right? Like, we didn't want to go too far.
The subdivision, you've got a minimum lot size, so it doesn't matter what size house you put on it. Well, it does, but I mean, the fact is, you have more. You can get fewer units in the same space with the subdivision because you have a minimum lot size.
Yeah, I think the most likely scenario is you end up with a larger, with larger houses with accessory units within those.
Right.
And those are, whether they started as rentals or for sale, they're
okay.
It's a bigger product.
Right.
Because there has to be a way to sell that product.
With the PUD, are these rentals or are they like sold like condos kind of thing,
No, I'd like to run some.
Right, okay.
This would be my first project.
Yep. I got it.
Something I'm very interested in getting involved in.
And is the intent? I'm noticing on the PUD that this is a private drive off of Hanshaw. Is there an intent that it would also connect to what's that other road at Cardinal?
So I think that's how we've shown it, but I think that's up for discussion. In the process is what would the preference be? I mean, certainly I think, if we were to connect, we'd want to do things in there to keep it from becoming any kind of cut through.
That's what I'm thinking, is if it's just even though it's a private drive, if you just make it a straight through, people are going to cut through there.
Yeah.
I can just, because I drive that road all the time, Hanshaw, and people turning onto Sapsucker Woods. And I can just see people cutting through, if this road existed, I could see people cutting through there to get to that.
I agree. Even if it's slower, people like to think they have a shortcut.
Yeah.
Like, so, but we would, yeah.
But that's the intent, it would connect to Cardinal, so you could access it either from Cardinal or.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's certainly where we would start with, but we don't think, we included here, what we think. Traffic volumes, would look like, in peak hours, it's, I think 27 cars coming in and out, maybe. I mean, that's using sort of older. The traffic, the standards are older now, sort of pre-work from home and, pre-pandemic. And so I think what we've seen in reality now is that the numbers end up being even lower than what those turn out to be, really. But even with those numbers, and with the volumes and the sight lines on that road right now, it's not it doesn't seem to be like a big add to the traffic. If we,
It's certainly not gonna be any worse than the Sapsucker Woods intersection. That intersection is terrible.
So tell us about your 1,000 square foot. What are you talking, 2 bedrooms?
It's, I mean, we've
A one bedroom
touched
loft,
on like
something
two
like that.
bedroom, we have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. I mean, try to not get too crazy with it, obviously, kind of like a duplicate, and I obviously have several models.
Yeah, I only asked that for parking. So it looks like you got 43 parking spots right now, not including the singles in the back there off the private road.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, again, this is preliminary, right? So,
I get it. No, I get it. Right.
We'll probably end up with a few more in here, but
I
a two bedroom with, with office or, with office or something that can be used as its bedroom is sort of, I think what the model of the 1,000 square feet looks like. People want this product because they don't want to be, they want something small, but still that feels big.
Right.
And so they don't want to be jammed into something. And when you start trying to add 3 full bedrooms into something this size, it starts to feel pretty crammed pretty fast.
Right, and you got the pocket community going with the public parking area and everybody walks to their house. I mean, I think you could probably create, I like the concept, but I would, you could maybe cluster the homes a little bit and have a little more green space in between them or something.
For sure. Yeah, I mean,
I understand you're trying to show the lots that where you're gonna, I get that, but I think you're gonna have, you got some parking still to come up with some little better design for that.
I can promise you if we're gonna move forward with the PUD. The next plan you're gonna see is gonna look a lot prettier. So that's why I call this a test fit, not a.
Good.
And are there any issues with fire access to some of those back buildings?
I don't think they'd be arranged like that. If you
Yeah.
go with it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do a
Yeah.
PUD, I understand what
Yeah.
you're thinking in the head, that if I just build the ones on the lots, and that's a good idea, because it gets you a rental in there real quick,
Yeah.
But then you still got parking to deal with. 'Cause you gotta
Right.
Deal with parking for all of those, so how do you group all those together too, so.
Well, and fire access and fire turnarounds.
I mean, that code review might reveal the need for fire lanes in some places.
Right.
That's all.
true. It's
Further
true.
design.
But some of that could be incorporated into the parking areas.
Yep.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, could be. Well, and that is an advantage to having. That's an advantage to having access from both Cardinal and Shaw, except for that little spur that goes up north. You can go straight, you can go all the way through, you don't have to actually turn around.
I think there's several ways. I think we can look at it. We'll refine the plan, and I think we'll meet with the fire, with the fire folks too, and
And you said you're planning on these, oh, you didn't say, these are all gonna be electric?
Oh, yeah.
Heat pumps, all that, okay.
It's the way of the future.
Yep,
If we're putting them in every house we're doing right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
They work pretty good.
Yeah.
I got them in my house, they're very efficient.
yep.
Ray, I have a clarification question for you. The document that we got indicates that by right, these guys could put two buildings on each lot, one being indicated as an accessory dwelling unit. When I read the definition of ADU, that's not the way it works, that they talk about the owner would be on site and that the
Yeah.
second building would clearly be accessory to the main building, and that's not what the intent here is it?
No, this is intended to be a rental product, so.
Yeah, so
It's really only for purposes of.
no, I think just to point out that
Yeah.
by right, you couldn't put the second building on there and call it an ADU. I don't think.
Unless it was sold. If it was owner occupied,
If the two buildings were purchased by one person
right?
and they
And that-
convinced Ray that the second building was accessory to the first.
Right, well, I think they were on page 9, they were referring to they could do that out of right with an accessory building.
Yeah, and just to be aware that the ownership would have to be set up that way.
Yeah, I think, no, I appreciate you making the clarification.
Yeah.
I think the intention here, and it's just to have the conversation, right, and make
Yes.
sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I just wanted to point to that. So a couple thoughts here. The Dryden just completed an update to its comprehensive plan, and housing featured big time in that document, and the need for much higher diversity of housing types, size, pricing, and things like that. That featured prominently in the update. So this is very consistent with what the goals of the update to the comp plan are. Also, we're now moving into rewriting our zoning to be consistent with the updated comprehensive plan. And we recently completed a critique of our existing zoning, and that critique also talked about things like changing the zoning so that tiny or small homes would be easier for people to develop, and that would imply, smaller lots and more flexibility on site design. So to me, what you're proposing is very consistent with the direction that the town wants to move in. So I'm pleased to see this. Another recommendation from our zoning consultant is that we should make it optional or perhaps even mandatory that all major subdivisions would be conservation subdivisions, which affords the regulating body great flexibility on site layout, similar to the PUD, only I think easier. And I don't know if the board would consider moving in that direction sooner than later. It's a fairly easy change to make to zoning to just say that neighborhood residential would be optional for conservation subdivision to take, for the developer to take that approach.
But again, that's if they want to sell the properties.
We
I
took
think,
it,
I think you want to turn them into rentals, you want to own them.
If I were to sell, I'd be like, here's the whole.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know that the regulation needs to continue to require that. Again, the recommendation of the zoning consultant was to make that change to afford greater flexibility in housing types and so that's a possibility that we could think about as a perhaps better way for us to move ahead to be able to think about projects like this. That said, though, I think this is an appropriate thing. I think it's consistent with the direction that the town of Dryden is moving in to make it easier for people to come forward with different diverse types of housing approaches to meet a broader segment of the community to be able to afford them and move in.
Brent, I see there's a pond.
Hmm.
It looks like there's an existing pond noted on the map.
Oh, is that this one?
Yeah. Are there any other, are there any concerns about, wetlands or? any of that kind of
There's
stuff?
no wetlands on site. Yeah.
I actually own a lot on the other side of Ludgate. I have a house there with a. Accessory unit essentially right now. And we built there, there wasn't any issues with water.
It's that new house that was built just next to Ludgate? As you're going towards Cornell?
Yep.
Yeah.
Another point I'll make about the phased nature of this is that I would hope that if we move ahead with this, we could figure out a way to get it all approved and underway so that you wouldn't feel like you wanted to build the first 7 or 8 buildings, and then after they're built and occupied, come in and start building new ones right next to the old ones. It would be very disruptive for the tenants to have a huge construction project right outside, and it would be unfortunate if the reason for that is that our regulatory process was so complicated that it was the only way you could do it.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, I'll circle back with Ray and talk through process and timeline. And we obviously, things happen and it can take a little longer than we think, but I think, as long as we can get to sort of a comfort level of is Joe again, that he's gonna be able to kind of get started on the site when.
Another major theme in our zoning update is to remove regulatory hurdles that slow down things that we want to have happen. That's what I would like to do.
That sounds fantastic.
That's before Elon Musk as well.
Are there thoughts about what's like the recreation area there? I see you have it just kind of laid out. I don't know if you thought much about like.
Well, I think we sort of always feel like, we can come in and propose things, or we can ask sort of, is there a pre-existing conversation that's gone on for either projects like this or, in the larger neighborhood of, maybe there's something missing there that we could make kind of, my experience with these things also is, even though it's built to serve this project, if it's a nice green space, people from the neighborhood are gonna walk over there and use it too, and
right,
as long as that happens in a way we would expect to, with respect for neighbors, then no one's gonna have a problem with that. So
sort of along the lines of what Joe was talking about, recreational amenities for folks. You mentioned Bruno's projects in your write-up. And they're nice. They're very nice. He built community buildings in each of his developments. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm not opposed to that.
It sort of ends up being a question of density, and 26 units is on a smaller kind of side of clustered.
The one in Freeville.
What's that?
The one in Freeville, I think put a community building there.
We'll take a look at that.
Yeah. They're very successful, his approach.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a community building. That's a maintenance.
In Freeville?
He doesn't have a community building. You're thinking Boiseville and.
Well, Boiseville
I was
has
just gonna say, I think it
And
is.
the one over in Seneca.
Yeah, the Lauber.
None in Freeville?
Those are a lot bigger.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
maintenance, it's a maintenance building.
Ah, okay.
No, I like this concept. I mean,
I think it works.
One of the things that he did was, it looks like it's a well-established neighborhood already because they kept a lot of mature trees there.
Mhm.
Is your lot, is gonna be similar, is there gonna be still a lot of the mature vegetation left there, or is it?
I think we'll have to kind of look into that once we, it's a matter of what we can keep and what we can't keep. So it's, it's just a matter of the area, what we can keep. I mean, we'll definitely try to keep some stuff up there.
I mean, as a rule, when we do this, we try to keep as much of that as we can. That's one of the things this affords us, right? With clustering the development is to try to do that. So we'll be taking a look at that, and we come back with sort of a more something illustrative of the actual kind of open space concept with it. yeah, we'll make sure we include that as a talking point, as to what we'll be keeping and what maybe go away.
It might make an interesting conversation with our, both our youth advisory board and the recreation folks, advisory board, to decide what that is, whether it's gonna be trees for people to run between and hide behind and that stuff, or whether it's gonna be open enough to do, I don't know, throwing frisbees and stuff like that. So, but it sounds like a conversation with our advisory boards, because there wouldn't be tenants to talk to directly. Anyway, just a thought.
Sure.
And how do you designate the difference between a road and a driveway? How does? You know, it's a private drive, but how do you?
Well, the roads have to be built to your town specs, which is a larger roadway that's generally more expensive too. And then, yeah, it results in a lot more pavement. So that's the short answer of what the difference. Yeah, what the difference is.
So maintenance of the driveway would be on the owner.
Correct.
Of plowing and what have you.
One quick question. I see two ditches along the roadways. What? Tell us about the ditches if you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk with my father, the engineer, and have him give more detail for that when I come back. We just haven't gotten all the detail yet. Sure. So.
Yeah. Okay, other questions? I like the idea.
Are you gonna go before the town board as well? I mean, they're the guys that end up, I think, approving the PUD, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a two-step process. So the concept plan comes before both boards with the hearing being held here.
Right.
And then the development plan, which is a site plan, a final site plan, goes for both boards with a hearing at the town board. And the town board is the end with the final approval authority.
Yeah, so it'd be prudent for you guys to do the same thing with the town board, just to get a sense of their support as well.
Right.
Yeah, no, I looks interesting.
Looks fun.
It does.
For me, being a builder, it just looks like a fun project like that. So
Yeah.
Great.
As long as the PUD process isn't too onerous, I guess.
You guys seem supportive of it, so I
Yeah.
do appreciate that, so.
Yeah, no, we appreciate your time
Yeah.
and for having the conversation before we put something formal in. So much appreciated. I'll follow up with Ray and yeah, we'll see you again, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. you had a good
Good luck.
thought.
Good luck. Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks for the handouts too.
Yeah.
That was nice to be able to lead through.
Okay, thanks, man.
Thank you. Okay, so what do we want to do next? We're gonna go through 1280.
Yeah, I mean, I was assuming that they're not showing. I don't know how they got, I mean, I did not confirm with them today, but they certainly should have come out of last month, just chomping at the bit to get this approval
Right, yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. Okay, 1280. So there was sent out a new. I mean, we pretty much approved it at the last one, right?
Right, we just didn't have the,
And the only thing that the county review pointed out is they didn't like the position of the dumpster.
Right.
And I think we were sent a new. Were we sent a new site plan with the dumpster moved or something? Let's see.
yep. I'm looking for that right now.
And then does the dumpster need to be screened? In the new location,
The screening,
should it have screening around it in the new location?
yeah, that should be.
Didn't know there was a creek there. What is it, just a drainage ditch?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
The email you sent earlier is all the latest stuff. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen with that revised.
Okay.
Um,
But really, the only change had to do with the dumpster, right?
Right.
So-
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was looking for, is that
Mm.
drawing. Cause I looked at that.
1280 is the cannabis.
Yes, this is the cannabis. So they moved the dumpster. It's kind of out. Next to where they want the pavilion, right? Next to that yellow rectangle that is where they're thinking
Yeah.
later on doing the pavilion. Right? Is that where the dumpster is?
Yep, that's the new location.
And so I would think if it's there, it would probably need to be screened, but. What are you screening it from? Because there's gonna be a fence there, right? So it's gonna already be screened from Route 13, or it's not gonna be visible from any of the roads. You're screening it from the parking lot? Do we really need to screen it from the parking lot?
It's already get moved. If you don't build it.
True, yeah, so
Then we get
I could
moved
see,
somewhere.
yeah, I could see having a screening for it, yeah. Okay. All right,
Did the document show a cross-section of the entrance drive and the sidewalk, indicating how they're built? I didn't see it.
No, I don't think he has any detail on any crossing.
So it's changed over time and I think in the right way, but I think before it gets approved, it needs to get nailed down on what the materials are and to make it clear that the sidewalk, in fact, will be a pleasant place for people to walk on and that it's separate from the road. There's no detail right now for that.
I thought it was just gravel. That was
Well,
more of a multi-use park lane, wasn't it?
Mhm.
It's just part of the
Yeah, I don't
driveway.
think I've ever heard details on it.
I thought it was just part of the driveway.
So is
We're
that-
gonna widen it out to be,
so is that okay that there's no separate walkway?
as long as it's got signs on it, we've approved stuff like that before. That's why that's slow signs and share the road with the pedestrian, stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
you know. We're gonna make them put a paved sidewalk all the way through there.
because I know that they're not planning on paving the driveway or the
Right.
parking lot.
Yeah, I know they were just gonna enlarge it. So
Yeah.
I think if you just had some signage, it would be. Making people aware.
And that's fine. It lacks detail right now. I couldn't really tell
Yeah.
what their intent was for how that got
But
built
we can add the detail.
for them.
Well,
Yeah, put the conditions into the approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
That's why I brought it up. It needs to be included.
Okay,
So do you want to put in a condition like a 4 foot wide gravel sidewalk distinguished from the driveway shall be provided?
say that again.
4 foot wide gravel sidewalk distinguished from the driveway?
And how would you distinguish it?
Yeah,
Granite
It
curb.
would
I don't know.
it would be white marble, right? So,
different color gravel.
Well, is there any practical reason to have a real sidewalk? They're talking about operating at night with socializing and stuff like that. And gravel not very clearly separated is the best way, or a good one, practically. Maybe not. I mean, maybe not adding this, not just the thought to throw out.
Well, they're showing the sidewalk on the site plan.
Mhm.
Right, I saw that. And then when I looked for details on what they
It
had
doesn't say
in
what
mind
the
for that,
material is.
I didn't see it.
Well, you could ask them to separate it with some posts or something, occasional sign to keep people from wandering in there. 'Cause be tough to plow, but
Does that need to be ADA accessible?
I don't think so. I don't think so either. ADA people aren't gonna be walking down that driveway.
it's not really, it's
What
not that.
about high people walking back?
Well,
That's not our problem.
Stray thought.
I mean, that's because it sits way back in there. That's, I don't think they're really gonna get, are they really gonna get people walking down there?
They'll get people.
Well, the bus is a
The bus is
viable
up
way
there.
of getting to this
They'll get people.
business.
Especially when the apartments show up
Right across the street, yeah, there's
Oh, yeah.
people moving in.
and next door.
Yeah.
So. I don't have a good way to separate it unless it just. Can't think of one. If it was paved, you could. You could line it or something.
Right.
Like
I mean, this seems a little bit different than some of the other projects where it's been more rural and country road where there's a
Right.
business and it's fine to be informal about separation between vehicles and people. But this is a higher density setting. There's other businesses around, there's residential facilities around, and that's again why it occurred to me when I look at the plan that showed a sidewalk, said, okay, how's this gonna work? And how are we gonna keep pedestrians separate from the vehicular traffic? The business is open after dark, how does it all work? And then I did see a section of the road combination walkway to show what they had in mind for that, and I think they need to show that.
Is the tavern, I forget its name, ever gonna be rebuilt, or is that turning into?
Doesn't have a good prospect right now, but ever hopeful.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, the possible go back and forth.
Well, should we just ask the question and kick it to them and tell them to come back next month? Or should we come up with a solution for it?
Well, ideally a solution, right? Even if it's constraining them, I think it would be.
Yeah, and I think it, again, this is a recommendation to the town board in their review, right, for this?
No, this is purely within purview. of the
Oh,
town.
But it was listed under the SUP thing, but this isn't an SUP. This is.
Oh, I
just like-
I saw the SUP
Yeah.
thing, that's what
This
had
is,
me.
this is not an
thinking
SUP.
that- Okay,
How wide's he got there now? What's, I can't read that dimension. For the driveway and the walkway.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a dimension line there.
I think that was actually a piece in the narrative. I'll look for something else here.
I don't know, it's not a dimension.
Sorry.
No, he's controlling it.
He's control.
This is, he's sharing his screen. I'm seeing that.
No, they're not wasting any time sitting in front of us tonight.
There is.
I think saying, I mean. Do we want to designate what the sidewalk is, or do we just want to say a full length sidewalk separate, with somehow designated from the roadway?
Yeah, I think if you designate a material and the width and clearly separate from the roadway, that might accomplish it.
Okay, so if we told them to make it like a multi-use trail.
Right.
Something they could plow separate.
Mhm.
Of 6 to 8 feet.
Okay.
What do you think? And then with and then a separation between that and the 20-foot driveway? There's the driveway 16, I forgot. Is it 16?
I think 16 is what I remember, but I'm not sure if I provided it wider than that.
So they'd have to put some sort of barrier in there between the two? Is that what we're looking for?
I don't,
It makes the maintenance pretty tough then.
Huh?
That makes maintenance pretty
Yeah, I
tough.
know.
I wouldn't put a barrier. I mean, it's, you don't do that when you put a line on the road.
No, you don't, but how do you define it? How does it not just turn into a 26-foot road?
Can I jump in here? I just gotta say, you know, I understand our intent, but next door, we have a driveway just as long in a place that's probably going to be a lot more busy. I mean, I've gone to Auto Works a lot for work. And there's no walkway there. So how do we justify requiring this in one lot, but not the other?
Yeah, there is no sidewalk going down
It's
the
just-
auto works and people walk down that driveway all the time.
Do it.
Well, there's people that go out there to get their cars. They ride the bus out
Right.
there and they walk down and get their car.
Or
Yeah.
ride their bike or something like that. I've things that I've done to get in there. So
Tell them to put a 20-foot driveway in. With, with some signage to do, I'll give you 4 feet, 16-foot driveway and 4 feet for pedestrians to ride a bike. No. Well, that's what you're looking for, right? 2 cars passing each other and people walking. What do you think, gentlemen?
That's cool. Yeah.
Put that in there?
So we're saying full length sidewalk.
Well, just accommodate some walking. The road should be, the driveway should be what, 20 feet? 16 and 4. But to accommodate 2 cars and pedestrians.
Well, because the way they have this drawn, they have the sidewalk.
They
sort
just
of
don't have
beside-
they just don't have dimensions.
They don't have dimensions.
So we're
16-foot driveway. And then 4 foot.
4 foot.
Yeah.
And then, but just put some signage up. Show the road.
And they've got the lighting there. They do show the lighting going down through. So yeah, I think does that seem reasonable?
Is that what you're looking for?
All right. Anything else? Any other conditions we need to put on this?
There's been confusion on the painting of the wooden fence. They had one drawing that had their business name.
Yeah, they said they weren't gonna,
Just gonna stay natural. Gray fence.
they said they weren't gonna paint logos and stuff.
Well, I know
That's
that.
it.
I'm wondering if we need to
Clarify.
reinforce that in our approval. That this is-
No mural, no painted fence, no mural.
So what do we say?
Tell them they can't have a mural.
Wooden fence finished in a neutral,
Yeah,
One neutral color.
one neutral color.
I thought that's what it said when I.
Well, and that's what they agreed to when they were here, was that they would do that.
We've had some experience.
Yeah.
It's a neutral color,
Wooden fence.
orange.
In single neutral color. Right? We don't want to tell them what color it has to be, do we?
Not orange.
Orange is not a neutral color.
It is in the fall.
Okay, anything else? We got the lighting. The site plan. Oh, screening on the dumpster, right? Well, either screening or something to designate where the dumpster sits, right? So they need like something. Like a corral, a dumpster corral.
Odds are it's gonna move. If you don't screen it, it's gonna move. And I'm okay with that.
Screen the dumpster.
You wanna screen the dumpster, gentlemen?
No, we don't care. Okay,
Dumpster and fix
cross that off. All right,
Let them move it.
okay. I move that we approve the site plan.
we want to go through seeker first.
We do secret before the site plan?
Yep.
All right, never mind, we're doing secret.
But now you established the parameters
Yes,
of
yeah.
the site plan, so.
Okay, fortunately, this is the short form. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No.
No, we're not.
Will the proposed action result in a change to use or intensity of use of the land? No or small. Right?
Yep.
Right.
Will the proposed action impair character or quality of the existing community? No or small. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? Small, I think, right? Whoops. All right. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No. Will the proposed action impact the existing public or private water supplies? No. Public or private wastewater treatment utilities? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architecture, or aesthetic resources? No. What's that?
Facetious.
Oh, okay. Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, e.g. wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in increase of potential erosion, flooding, or drainage problem? No, or small. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
I suppose it depends on what you think about what they're selling. Okay, so we have a negative, these are all no or small, so negative declaration. May result in check this box, be determined based on the information else above. Support documented, but it will not result in any significant adverse. That's what we're doing. Okay. So we have a negative declaration.
Sign it.
On the, yeah, on the. Yeah, we'll take care of this.
So you could do a resolution to neg deck it
Yep.
and then go into an approval for the site plan resolution.
So. Propose a resolution that we have a negative declaration on the. Short environmental assessment form. Part 2.
This is just a retail establishment, correct?
Correct.
There's no growing or anything.
Not there. The same company is growing, but they're not growing it there. Which I didn't know that New York was doing. I thought you had to be, I thought they had to be separate, but I guess they are allowing some small growers to also be dispensaries. Yeah. So
Is that your motion?
that's my motion, that we have a regulation.
I'll second.
Okay, Craig seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous, Troy? And then. I move that we approve the site plan
With condition.
with the conditions that they have a full length. Sidewalk, we're recommending 16-foot driveway, 4 foot for the sidewalk, 20-foot wide space, and that they. Provide signage or something to distinguish where the sidewalk is. And that the wooden fence be finished in a single neutral color. Like it could be natural wood or some neutral, some neutral single color. Those are the conditions. Okay, that's my motion.
General.
What's that?
And the
And,
general.
yeah, I'm sorry, and they adhere to the general conditions.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion, yes.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in, any other discussion? I always forget that step, right?
You're doing good.
It's helpful for people on that, we're
Yeah.
like 2 seconds behind.
Any other discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? All right, unanimous, Joy? Okay. All right, what's next? Let's see. Zoning audit, we were, as I recall, we were just thinking about the priorities, right? And I think we defined those. And. Oh,
So I can give an update as far as I did have a discussion with Dan and she's willing to entertain continuing to work on this. So we could, since we only have a few $1,000s left on our present contract, and that was really for the scope of services through the audit. We could have a professional services contract with her for this next year to do the next phase. We should probably, since it's likely to exceed $10,000, we should probably at least go out and get some other comparable. Consultant to put in a bid on the same scope of work. So probably what we should develop is that scope of work for this next phase, and then we can get her and some other company to go and bid on it. We don't have to do a full-blown RFP.
right, but we do have. to come up
We
with
should do some
scope.
comparison shopping. Yeah.
So how do we want to do that? As far as defining the scope of work, is that something we want to do at our January meeting, is define the scope of work? Is that okay to do it there, or?
Yeah, I mean, I basically told her from our discussion last month at this board that we were probably looking at the definition section, allowable uses table, and then focusing on dealing with the data centers and the battery storage. So it was at least that those 4 facets are kind of the general scope, but we should refine that further and put some more flesh on it.
The scope of work is going to be making recommendations for zoning changes in those areas that you just.
Yeah, and working with the board to develop that.
And executing a public outreach,
And executing
Yeah.
public outreach.
Yeah.
Correct.
which needs to be defined.
Question,
Yes.
do you really want to spend resources and have Nan dig into the data center? Or because it implies to me, and I could be wrong, that means talking about how to regulate it. And if I recall the old fracking stuff, you can say yes or no, but you can't regulate how they do it after you yesed it.
Well, you can control where it's done.
Why don't we send a formal, we still haven't heard from the town board there.
And what?
Well, I mean, we could go through all the hoops of regulating it and the town board could say no. So we should probably get input from them. What they're thinking on this, because if they say no, it just gets included in the unwanted uses where the fracking is and mining.
Right.
They could just add it there, right?
Dan, are you hearing this?
Very much so. Well, not to pass the buck, but I think the town board asked the planning board for advice. That's how we left it. We wanted to be open to your thoughts. If you want to hear our thoughts, that's basically turning it around.
Well, we could spend a lot of time on creating a law for it. I mean, let's just do a poll here. I'm not opposed to seeing it on a small scale basis. And what that is, I don't know. I think
I agree with that. I sent you guys a document 4 or 5 pages a couple of months ago. I'd done sort of a literature review on this, and a part of it was I was trying to understand, aside from the crypto data centers and the gigantic AI data centers, are there other kinds? And in fact, there are. I found companies that build relatively small buildings. The example for the small one was a 5,000 square foot building that a company comes in and installs the infrastructure so that their companies can come in and install their own server equipment. And there was some co-location name for it or something like that. But And it's, the hardware is serving local businesses that, you know, choose to rent space because it's got higher availability of power and higher quality environmental controls and stuff like that. So, acknowledging that, pretty much all businesses use the data center technology for their business. It's a legitimate use that I think you could accommodate, as Craig said, on a small scale without creating the problems that we also associate with data centers, that they use up all the electricity and drive up electric costs, that it doesn't need to be that way. So I think we can develop outline language for that a consultant would then, you know, flesh out for us if we want to go in that direction.
Yes,
As opposed to just flat out saying no data centers.
right.
Well, I was
Mhm.
thinking. And coming up with zero, what the benefit is to the community, the local community of such a place. You may have answered that. In a way that I hadn't thought about.
For data centers, that is correct. For crypto mining specifically, is there an advantage to the local community? Not really. But for these other types of heavy use data centers, which are the same hardware. It's the same hardware, same structure. There are, and so it's, you know, the.
Well, so right now, the guy who's filed the lawsuit
Right.
and made the proposal is saying he wants to offer a crypto mining service.
Correct.
I guess one could say no to a crypto mining service. But then say, but this modest data center serving local businesses.
Serving local businesses, serving
would have a
AI.
benefit that the
serving-
crypto service did not.
Yeah.
So you could split it that way. Maybe.
So in any aspect, go ahead, Dan.
I guess what, you know, the town board was looking for is whether we have any legitimacy in looking at capacity. When we say small scale, we're not talking about size of the structure, we're talking about size of the energy used. I would assume that's what we're talking about. That's one of the concerns of the board. And do we have any standing to regulate that? Is that outside of what we can do, what we're allowed to do or should do? Or can't, maybe should is the wrong word, but it's not just data. I mean, AI, for instance, uses a tremendous amount more energy than traditional search engines would. And so there's legislation being developed in Albany on this. Our assemblywoman is very interested in this. She was very interested to know that we put a moratorium in place because the governor has this big, I think it's called Upstate and AI or AI New York, some $400 million initiative to bring more AI processing to upstate New York. And that goes kind of in conflict with a lot of the goals of the CLCPA, the big climate law in New York State. And so there's this tension that's building, and we might as well be, on top of this in our town. And that's what we were thinking. That's the information we needed to gather. And I know you guys have looked and shared at a lot of it because I get CC'd. And I was wondering if you've found any patterns or anything that you think, could shape some regulation for the town.
So the physical size of the building and the load are very much related. There's a limit on how much load you can pack into a square foot. So in the little paper I wrote up, and based on the literature review that I did, they had this, small, medium, and large facility, and the small facility seemed reasonable for Dryden. It was, I think, 5,000 square feet. They listed it about 1 megawatt. As far as location, I pointed out that if we put it over in the commercial zone over near NYSEG, that's right near that big transmission voltage substation. So adding 1 megawatt really wouldn't amount to a hill of beans in that regard. That seemed to me to be a reasonably easy way to accommodate that use if somebody wanted to bring it here. And a fairly easy way to place limits on it, not so much telling them what kind of equipment they can put in the building or what they could use it for. Just say, 5,000 square feet, it's got to be over in the zone next to the substation.
It really should be in a light, that's light industrial there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, to me, that is something that should be in a light industrial zone, not in a rural residential
Absolutely,
zone
yeah.
or a commercial
Yep.
zone.
Saying that, and I would open it up to the farm community.
Well, as long as it was near power.
Yeah, well, most farmers have three-phase.
Well, they don't have that much three-phase.
Yeah.
Square footage limit as well?
Yeah.
Farm would-
I wouldn't do it, guys. Here's the thing. If you put a 1 megawatt or a 2 megawatt load out on the end of even a three-phase distribution line. And then in the future, you're looking to apply that capacity for electrification, I think you're asking for trouble.
But you could put it on North Road.
Back to-
Middle of the lines.
Back to the agricultural for a second. If I read the order, and again, I could be wrong because I probably read it once. I thought there was a suggestion there that the ag districts narrow what constituted actual ag uses consistent with what we wanted there, as opposed to, this would sound like light industrial on agricultural land. So that's my top of the.
Well, I
At
think
the
this
moment,
is stuff
yeah.
that, I think this is why we want this with as part of the zoning review and the consultant and the public hearing is to kind of dive into all these things. But Dan, to your question, I think, yes, I mean, I think we have some ideas and from the stuff that was shared and all that. But, I'd love to hear what like Nan and others might have to say about is agriculture someplace you would put it, right? And I was reading today about some new developments in agri-solar where they're doing, a lot more power production and producing off the land at the same space, right? So it's
Well, if you're talking a 5,000 square foot building on 300 acres of land, it's nothing,
the question there would be,
bigger.
for something like this, the question would be power and making sure that it's not impacting the power and the things around it. But
And is that actually a question yet to be defined, whether you can regulate the power?
well, that's the question. And again, that's why I'd want someone that's an expert to give us some advice on this is, can we regulate power consumption? Can we say you can't have a building that uses more than X amount of power?
I did, now that this recalls that sometime in the last month or so, because there was a suggestion that Anna Kellis' office had expertise in this arena. I did call her office, talk to a staffer who said that they would attempt to communicate with us before our January meeting.
Okay.
Now, that means somebody needs to follow up probably and remind them / check if they're really talking about that. I did it by phone, so I don't think there's any email to share with anybody on that score. That means I don't remember the staffer's name even. But if the board is interested, they could contact Anna Kellis' office and probably find out what, if anything,
Well,
they're actually planning to do.
and I think it would be interesting to know what the state's thinking on this, because, that might help drive some things too. So where does that leave us? So I think we need to. I think the point is, Joe, that we need to move. I think we need to include the data center piece as part of the zoning.
Yeah.
This
Right, that's where
discussion
this
scope of
started,
work.
and
Yep,
that's the answer.
yep. And so I think we have.
On a small scale.
Correct.
If possible. Dan, could you ask the board if that's all right? If they're.
Yeah, we haven't, shut down the idea of doing this in the town. We want to hear a recommendation. So, I mean, we wouldn't have asked if we already had our minds made up.
All right. So. Ray, I think we can we could pretty much define that scope of work, right? I think from what we've talked about. Does that seem reasonable?
I am a no vote.
No vote
No
on-
crypto, no data.
Oh, I'm
It's just-
talking about, yeah, I'm talking about the,
I don't care what size it is, it's,
No.
I'm gonna vote no if I'm here, if I'm
Yeah.
voting. The environmental impact is just tremendous. New York State already has more crypto mining than any other state. And it's growing
Mhm.
and it's continuing to push the use of fossil fuels. Drill baby drill. And the changes that are coming, that have already come and are coming to the climate. I heard a young person speak this past week up in Albany. And she said that this past summer was the hottest summer on
Yep.
record.
Yep.
And she said in her lifetime, she's probably gonna remember it as the coolest summer she can remember. Cause that's where the data shows it's going.
Mhm.
Gotta draw a line in the sand someplace and, it's not up to us in the end to stop this, but if we can trip them and get them thinking and get them working on other technologies and more wind, solar, what have you, that's what needs to be done first, in my humble opinion.
So Bill, even a small data center that served the day needs of small businesses, but you wouldn't support that?
No, because that just leads to a medium one and then a large one, and then, you're opening the door a crack and it'll widen, in my opinion.
the point is we need to do this as part of the zoning review. And the decision at the end could be no crypto mining or any kind of data center,
Well, it sounds like you've
or it could be something else.
figured out the scope.
Yep. we
This is
figured
a
out the scope.
priority.
Right, and that's one of the, and because we have more time, we have to do it as it's one of the priorities of one of the first things we need to work on.
And it serves the purpose of the moratorium, which is to do a study
Right,
as opposed, I mean, that's the
Right.
justification for.
Correct. correct.
But please keep in mind, I'm just an alternate.
No, you're,
You're on the spot today.
You're fine. I agree with your
Question.
concerns.
We could be done with this.
But I think,
You can do a resolution right now.
I think we need to, I mean, I agree, but I think this is all part of, as far as the scope of work for this zoning review. This, how we handle, a regulation around data centers, crypto mining, et cetera.
Then the clock is ticking, so
Yeah.
it's gonna
Yeah,
get done.
all those things need to, that's the scope of work for this next part of the zoning project. We're going into it having made no decision on what is gonna come out the other end at this point.
So data mining definitions, what part of definitions, all of them?
Yeah, I think so. It was all definitions, right? It was the
Yeah.
whole. definition. Yeah.
All of them and to be added.
Data centers. What was the other? So it was data centers definitions,
Might even have to look. at-
battery facilities, right?
Mhm.
Battery. What was the other ones?
The allowable uses chart,
What?
allowable
Use chart.
uses.
Allowable uses. Oh, the allowable uses chart, right?
So mostly the, yeah.
Right.
Especially.
Was that it?
I
That's
think,
what I took out of the discussion last month.
I think the housing piece is broader than just the allowable uses chart. For example, we were talking about the definition of accessory dwelling unit, and that it's fairly narrow now. On what that is and what it can be. And there's many examples like that through zoning. I think. To develop a scope of work, we could go through Nan's recommendations and pick the ones out that we would like to. Accept now and have the consultant work on immediately. And, you know, Joe, you made the comment at the last meeting that, the housing piece isn't all gonna be low hanging fruit, that there's gonna be pieces that people find threatening. We could avoid those for this initial round, and pick ones that we think are fairly easy to put in place, and get them done, and then have a following iteration where we can
High fruit.
the high fruit, you know, take on the high fruit. And the more complicated things that are in her recommendations. I think the more specific we can be about the things that we want to work on and acknowledge the direction that Nan set in her critique of our zoning, you know, the better proposals that we're gonna be.
Right.
I think the lower price proposals that we're gonna be, that the people reading our RFP, if they get the feeling that we know what we're talking about and that we're fairly well set on what we want, then they're not gonna put money in there to meet with us 10 times to get that stuff decided.
So again, how are we gonna get to that specific list?
Be nice to have a straw man.
So you think it send something out? Is that what you're thinking, and let people add or remove from it? Because the sooner, if we want to get this moving, right, the sooner we make this decision of what the scope of work is, the sooner we can get moving on it. We can start working on it. Right? I hate to just push this off to the next meeting, but maybe, Ray, if you and I can sort of come up with an initial list and then send it out.
And circulate it.
So you're looking,
Circulate it and say,
and this would be a 1-year project? Is that what you're hoping?
The moratorium is
well,
less than a year.
yeah, the more, yeah. It's close to a year. I think a 1-year project,
Okay.
because I think the moratorium was put in place like 6 months ago.
So use charge, battery, definitions, so definitions of use.
Yeah.
And for the battery piece, the document that NYSERDA published seems to be in use by a number of communities around the state. That's a pretty good starting point. And when you read through that, there really aren't that many decisions that the local government should be making. So
Right.
one would be, which zones do you want to have it in? And then what kind of setbacks do
Right.
you want to have to define the size of the property that it needs to be located in? Those are the two big ones.
Right.
But as far as defining a scope, I think to start with that and say that we're comfortable with the NYSERDA language, and that we just need to nail down a couple of the pieces that apply to our locality.
Right. Okay. So is that how we want to approach it? We wanted to try to have some document created that we can circulate, that people can comment on. And then by the next meeting, we can say, or can we just do it via email?
We could probably do it at the January meeting this is what we
Just-
want to
just
put on the
say,
street.
Does everybody like this? This is the scope of work, and then we can move forward with this stuff, right? Does that seem reasonable? Okay, I'm just trying to figure, you see, John, I'm just trying to figure out how to get to, how do we get to that scope, that actual scope of work document? That's. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tony, I'd be happy to jot down some ideas and send them to you and Ray to.
Yeah, it's fine.
Think about as you put it together.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
So Tom and Marty redid the scope of the special use permit chart years ago. You know where that is?
I have that.
Do you have that?
Yep.
Okay. Because that would be helpful with the start.
And Nan's comment on that, because we started off saying there's way too many special uses, and she pushed back a little bit and said that in some cases she thinks that they're reasonable, and then other ones where she said to take these out.
Because they didn't eliminate them all either.
Nope, they did not.
Well, in reviewing the acceptable use chart, that also implies that we're looking at SUP process and all that, right?
Right.
You want to,
Well, our process follows state law.
Right.
It's just whether or not it's out of right
Right,
with special use permit or site plan review.
right.
Well, and SUP, the division of labor, because most planning boards do it all.
Right, right,
In this town, the town board does.
right.
The SUPs that relate to housing, I think, are part of our scope, because we want to try and
Right.
tackle housing.
Right.
So that limits it a little bit.
And there was this language thrown about because people were just thinking about SUPs that are quote politically sensitive,
Mhm.
go to the town board versus the rest. Would stay with the planning board. If people want to think about what they really think of as politically sensitive, and if you're gonna take it.
Yep.
Otherwise, it all ends up with the town board again.
Okay, so I think we have a plan. Yep.
Another thing that I didn't mention last time that I think we need to do, Nan strongly recommended that the first section of zoning refer to the comprehensive plan and be clear about what the goals of zoning are, which is missing right now. And I think that would be real helpful for us to try and. get
Certainly
that in
sounds like a
place.
first step, doesn't it?
It feels like a good first step. Yeah, so I would put that in.
As a first step.
Yeah.
And then move into the definition.
So it's kind of an intro, right?
Comp plan.
Yes,
intro.
yeah, the intro. with
Kind of
the
an
first-
intro and then,
And then you
with-
get into the definitions
yeah,
and
and
the
then get into the
definitions, we don't need to do them all, but I think we said we wanted to do the ones that refer specifically to housing. To
And to these other things.
and
that
to
we're-
the regulatory.
Yeah.
Requirements that are screwed up in the
Yep.
zoning.
Okay. So you're gonna send us something and then we'll go from there and
Yeah,
send it out to
I'll work
everybody?
on something in
Okay.
the next week or so.
Can you also send us Marty and Tom's?
Yes.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
What they came up with.
All right. Planning department update.
Hey, there's a EPA grant opportunity that I'm working on. It submittal is for this Friday. It's to start a reuse hub out here in Dryden, so it'd be akin to the Ithaca operation. And they're trying to drive this, solid waste recycling effort. So that's a grant that we won't hear from for probably 6 months, but that has, I think, there's some good potential. And then another thing that I want to bring before the town board is the Auburn, I think, is the community that has done this non-binding resolution to support deconstruction industry, the circular construction industry. So possibly bringing something like that to the town of Dryden and starting that movement to promote, this deconstruction and getting the materials back into the retail environment. So those are two efforts that just wanted you to be aware of.
Ray, is that largely symbolic or does that actually include some actionable items?
Well, it's symbolic at this point, but I think it's probably to start a little bit of a groundswell so that eventually, because really the action would be when it gets into code, and that's years away.
Right.
But to start something so that it's at least a consideration for future codes, to actually start memorializing that demolition is not strictly sending to the landfill. There's a certain amount of recovery has to take place.
I heard of and did not attend a presentation by a guy named Dan Antonioli on this.
Yep.
I suggested to him that he approach Tony or you about presenting here, so.
Mhm.
It was well taken by the people that I know who went to the presentation, so it may or may not be of interest to the board. You can decide that.
Yeah, CROWD is the statewide organization that's promoting this, and they will probably do some kind of presentation before the town board in January. So I will send that out to this board so you could attend that evening. And then another thing, just something out of the news is that in Cortland, the city, I guess, has ownership of the railroad as it goes through Lime Hollow. And so they're trying to decide at this point whether to give that railroad right away to Lime Hollow, who has been using it and maintaining it for years, or put it into a gravel operation, or to keep it themselves. So that's a decision before the town government at this point. And
Did you say turn it into a gravel operation?
that is one of the applications for that area, yes. So I'm pulling this out of the news. But that is what I understand is there's a debate going on now as to what,
Well, part of the trail runs right next to the, whatever that gravel operation is, up by the little miniature golf course. Cortlandville Sand and Gravel, is that the name of it? Yeah,
Yeah, I
that backs up right against the trail.
Okay.
That's in part of that area that Lime Hollow maintains. A little hard for me to imagine that they would push it. If you look at the topography, it wouldn't work very well. I'm surprised to hear that.
yeah. So I'm gonna try and promote probably from Dryden Rail Trail Task Force or multiple entities to get some weigh in from the neighbors here in town of Dryden on that
It's hard to
issue.
imagine they would do that. It's a very popular community thing. I walk on that. See a lot of
Okay.
people.
And he doesn't want to see it there.
I do not want to see it. I can't imagine they would do.
So this board, I assume, still supports the vision of, after we get done with our core Dryden Rail Trail, possibly doing these other community interconnects to Groton and to Portland and.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that the end of your?
yep,
So I'd just like to pass on this comment. Would you, Ray, thank Gina for the writings that she's been doing, either sharing emails that she communicates with people with projects that are ultimately going to come before us,
Mhm.
plus the other rundown she's given us that are really very clear, detailed enough for us to see it and really helps our understanding.
Mhm.
That's really been a nice development since she's arrived. Would you please?
I will pass that on happily.
Okay. Town board update, Dan.
All right, well, usually we get together after our second town board meeting and I have more lively stuff to talk about, but we do have a few things I can give you an update on. You probably noticed that the town website got a makeover and went online this morning, so it's a better looking website, but it's a little glitchy still. I had trouble getting on it just to sign on to this meeting, so be patient with that, but I think it is an improvement over what we had before. We are in a lot of negotiations right now with the state and Caroline over Dryden Fiber to establish a 10-year agreement, an intermunicipal agreement with them. It's taken a lot of our time and it's all worthwhile, but it's a big lift what we're trying to do to provide broadband service to every household in both towns and to advance this $9 million project that the state is sponsoring, but we have to report a lot and hit milestones. I was in 2 hours of meetings about Dryden Fiber today, and it's just a fraction of what some of our staff are participating in, but we're getting it done. Tomorrow night, no, it's not tomorrow night, Thursday night, we'll be doing the FEAF, the environmental forums for the Freeze Road Bridge, which is a major milestone in that project, meaning we'll have completed the environmental review and then established that for New York State, and we should be able to go out to bid for that project early in next year. I continue to take the case to do some EMS reform, emergency management service reform to Tompkins County. I've been speaking to the legislature of the whole and also subcommittees about our status as a donor town. I'm not happy with it. My colleagues aren't happy with it. Dryden Ambulance isn't happy about it, but we do pay $1.2 million for ambulance service, which is fantastic in the town of Dryden, but a lot of that service goes outside of our boundaries. And I'm finally getting some traction with our colleagues in other municipalities and the county that this needs to be addressed. And so I've brought up the idea of an ambulance tax countywide as opposed to just in the town of Dryden. It would replace our ambulance tax. You wouldn't be taxed twice, but we pay 80 cents on 1,000 in the town of Dryden. That should be 80 cents on 1,000 throughout Tompkins County. And as I explain this to people, and maybe, you know, the more I talk about it, the more you folks can explain it. We've got to build a momentum for this change at the legislature. We've got to get Mike Lane and Greg Mezzi on board, even Lee Shurtleff, who represents part of this town, on board with this, because it can't continue. It's unsustainable. And I've been pleased that the other town reps on TCOG have found agreement with this, unanimous support for this. And so that's my pet project for 2025, to see if we can get this established at the county level. Yeah, that was the main stuff I wanted to share. Any questions for me?
How's your leg?
What's that? Don't delay. Okay.
No,
Okay,
All right.
I think we're good. Minutes approval. We have several. I sent revised versions out. A little bit ago. We'll start with September 26th meeting.
Do you want to do them all, or would you like to go one by one? After all your revisions and work?
Well, I guess if you think we can do them all at once, I think that's fine. I'll tell you, so I sent out the revisions, so we're saying, you know, was there any changes to that? The only one I didn't send out, and Joyce sent it out, and I do have some minor changes to, is the one for the 1029 special meeting.
We should do it individually then.
Okay.
Obviously.
All right, so for the September 26th meeting, September 27th meeting. Was there any
I move approval.
okay,
I
Second.
second.
second, okay, so Joe moved, Bill seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, those are approved.
And that is the 26th.
That's the 26th, okay, yeah.
26th, yeah.
September 20, yeah.
September 26th, correct. September 26th. October
24.
That's that one. Get the right one. October 24th. Any comments or changes on that one? Somebody want to move that?
I do.
Okay, Joe moves. Second. John seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Got that. The October 29th special meeting. These were really short minutes, but all I did was I added in my copy. I added the time the meeting started and the adjournment time. So I didn't change the text of the minutes or anything, which really just said we had these things. All I did was I added the meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. and that the meeting was adjourned at 8:17. It's okay. So I'll move, we approve those minutes. Second, Joe seconds. All in favor? Okay, everybody's in favor. Good. And then the last one is November 19th. Any changes or issues with the November 19th minutes? No, all good. I'll move, we approve those. Joe seconds. All in favor? Good, we got through the minutes.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work on it. Seriously.
Last thing, planning board membership for 2025. The planning board should make a recommendation. I believe, we don't have to, I guess, but I think we should make a recommendation to the town board, but before we do that, I'd like to formally recognize Joe. For his, was it 9 years of service on the planning board? Because you said
Two alternates.
two alternate and a 7-year term. So 9 years on the planning board. Joe, thank you so much, you know, for
It was a learning experience for me and it was good for me sometimes, whether I liked it or not, to have different points of view
that's right.
aired in my presence.
That's what it's all about. We need people with differing opinions on the board.
And
no
Thank
question.
you all and the ones who suffered under my
Yeah.
membership before, with your patience for
We
it.
didn't suffer.
We didn't suffer. So anyway, thank you, Joe. I really, I just want to recognize the 9 years that you've been on the
Appreciate it.
board.
Thank you.
All that. As far as makeup, so the question is, I guess in one recommendation is, do we want to change who the chair is? For next year?
Well, the question is, do
Nice
you want
try.
to change? Do you want
I
to
don't
change?
care.
it?
No, I'm fine. Cool. It's really up to you guys if you want to
You
change
want to
it.
do it?
Yeah, okay.
I'll go with it.
Yeah, so we'll be recommending that I stay as chair. And then we have an opening, so we have one. So we actually are gonna have two openings. One is a full membership position and one is an alternate. Because Diane is dropping off, as you know, her term is over and she's not renewing either. So we have one alternate, one regular membership. Bill, are you interested in the regular membership? Like doing that?
I would be interested, but I feel like, I've witnessed all of you here in your discussions and all, I'm just in awe of the knowledge. and I
Gotta
just
start
feel-
somewhere.
You
Yeah,
gotta start somewhere.
Somebody's gotta block that data center.
Well, and part of it is,
No, somebody's got to.
well, and I'm not sure, it may be
Same
that.
difference, right?
They choose to fill. And the town board may have their own idea of how they want to fill that position.
Right.
But you're interested in continuing either as an alternate
yes.
or as a,
I'd make the recommendation then, Bill.
that Bill fill the open regular membership and then we're looking for two.
Then you're
alternates.
looking for two alternates.
We can make that recommendation. The town board can do what they want.
do it.
Right. Okay,
It's good that you spent a year as an alternate, because it is hard to grasp it all, you know.
Mhm.
I remember my first year, I was in like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yep, my first year, I was an alternate for 2 months. Because we had a resignation,
you now.
there was a
Look at you
resignation on the board, I know,
graduated.
there was a resignation on the board and I was an alternate for 2 months.
Somebody's telling you there is a chair opportunity for you in the future.
That's right. Okay,
Don't accept, you might be chair.
Right.
I better show up to all the
Yeah.
meetings.
so the recommendation to the town board is that I stay as chair. And Bill fill the open position and that we're looking for 2 alternates. That's the recommendation. Yeah, we're putting forward. Right, all in favor? Yep, everybody's in favor.
What's the
Okay.
resolution? Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
That was Joe's last vote too.
That was Joe's last vote.
That's right.
Yeah, end of an era.
Now I get to sit down there.
Yeah.
Can't hear anything and
And the heckle.
Dan or anybody on Zoom, anything else?
I'll formally say thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
It's been really good for the town to have you participate.
thank you, much appreciated.
And what that also means though, is that we as planning board members, not Joe, because he's gonna be no longer a planning board member, but we as planning board members, if we know of somebody who's interested, that get them to submit their volunteer forms, right? So if you know somebody that might be interested in serving, submit the volunteer forms. It was very easy to find the volunteer form on the new website. I did notice that. If you just go to the planning board section, there's a thing for the volunteer form right there. So that was
Potentially.
good.
Mhm.
So Dan, I don't know if there's been any other interest that you've seen For,
We have not. I'll check again with our clerks tomorrow, I mean Thursday when I see them, but I haven't been able to identify anyone, but you know, 2 alternate positions will be probably easier to fill than a full-time, you know,
7-year term, right?
jump into the stream and try and swim position.
It is a 7-year term.
You sprung my trap real quick.
7-year contract. Thank you, Tony, for being willing to serve again.
I checked with Danby today, there are no applications in currently.
There, okay, all right. All right, is that it? I'd say we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Have a great holiday. Dan. Have a good-
Holidays.
Joy, have a good holiday. Marie,
Thank you. You too.
and in a couple of weeks, we start a new year.
Comfortable, regular, everyone.